this time.
And about a minute and a half left here. Bitcoin. Well, there's the music now. But was Jeffrey Epstein behind Bitcoin at all, you think?
Well, he was. He was most importantly behind steering Bitcoin away from this direction it was going to that direction. The direction it started in the original white paper, it was a peer-to-peer settlement system that got the banks and everybody else out of the game. And after Epstein got involved, and with the help of other people, he wasn't solely responsible, it became digital gold, right? Total change in what it was, its original stated purpose. And so he was, yes, he had a hand in that. And of course, now we see that Howard Lutnick, who had an apartment right next to him that he got from Epstein for $1, brownstone in Manhattan for $1. Sweet, good work if you can get it. He's actually still involved with Cantor Fitzgerald, which is the company that's running Tether, which is the so-called stablecoin that's backing Bitcoin. So Howard Lutnick's in there pushing.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the vice commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Doctor, thanks a lot for coming on. So you spent your life, 50 years working on treatments for cancer, and when you started, it seemed like we were moving in the West toward the elimination of cancer. Smoking was a huge emphasis. Get rid of tobacco, and cancer rates will drop. Obviously, smoking does cause cancer, and we got rid of it basically, but cancer rates went up. And that is a very rarely remarked upon mystery that really bothers me. Tell us, since you made billions of dollars selling your companies, but you're still involved in medical research, which I admire. Where are we now with cancer? What are you seeing in cancer rates?
Well, what really worrisome to me now is not just the rate, but the population in which it's increasing, i.e. the younger people. So we're clearly seeing an increase in certain types of cancer, like pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and we're seeing it, colon cancer, and we're seeing it in younger people.
Just to set a baseline, what's the 10-year survival rate for pancreatic cancer?
It's horrible. I think, if you have pancreatic cancer today, I don't think there is a 10-year survival rate, so to speak.
Yes.
What there is, however, if you have patients who are what we call failed all standard of care, the survival rate is in months. You measure it in 2 months.
Yes. That's certainly my understanding, having watched a lot of people die of it. So advanced pancreatic cancer is a death sentence. Where are you seeing it now?
Well, I got to tell you a really concerning story. It's not only am I seeing it now, I'm seeing it in younger people. And for the first time in my career, when I left UCLA, I was doing all the Whipples, which is a surgery to actually remove most of the pancreas, a very big operation.
You're a surgeon as well.
I'm a surgeon.
Yes.
And I was also doing pancreas transplants for type 2 diabetes and islet cell transplants and stem cell transplants. So I had this diverse activity as a UCLA assistant professor. But I never saw pancreatic cancer in children. And the greatest surprise to me was a 13-year-old with metastatic pancreatic cancer that the family called us to help.
Welcome back to Truth Thursday on the Rob Maness Show, folks. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, today we're speaking the truth about what you just heard. The hidden criminal. Cancer is the master of disguise. Across the United States, cancer rates have been climbing, and more families are facing diagnoses that seem to come completely out of nowhere. It's become one of the most pressing health challenges of our time. But every so often, a story comes out that forces us to rethink what we believe about this disease, how it behaves, how it hides. And the story today is about how one man managed to survive when the odds were stacked against him. We're joined today by someone truly extraordinary. Rick Hill is a 51-year cancer survivor, and his case remains one of the most remarkable long-term remission stories ever documented. In 1974, at the Mayo Clinic, Rick was diagnosed with stage 3 embryonal cell carcinoma and given very little chance of survival. But instead of accepting the narrow options that were presented to him, he made a bold decision. He traveled to a place called the Oasis of Hope Hospital in Mexico. And it was led at the time by the pioneering Dr. Ernesto Contreras Sr., where he followed an integrated program centered on Laetrile, B17, detoxification, nutritional therapy, and pancreatic enzymes. Against every expectation, Rick overcame his cancer without chemotherapy or radiation at all. And more than 50 years later, he's still cancer-free. And today he's here to talk about something that most people have never heard. You just heard a little bit of it there, how cancer cells can literally hide from your immune system and what it takes to unmask them. Rick, welcome to the Rob Maness Show.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be on your show, and what a service record you have. Holy smokes.
Well, I'm thrilled. Well, thank you. I'm thrilled to have you on here. I'm thrilled to have you on here because my wife's a breast cancer survivor. And she's been cancer-free for over 12 years now. But, you know, with all this stuff that's been going on with the pandemic and the shots and all that, we're just really worried about our kids, and we're worried about her. Heck, even me, and I have no history of cancer at all in my family and everything. But, you know, there's all these strange things happening out here. Tell folks a little bit more about your story, Rick, and what happened with you, because this is remarkable. It really is.
Well, it started so long ago that that is what makes it remarkable. And that is that I was diagnosed in 1974. I was 24 years old and been married a year, expecting our first child. I was the administrator of a Christian day school, so I was working for God. I never thought I'd be killed so early. But bad went to worse. I mean, by the time I'd been at the Mayo Clinic a month, I was down to 120 pounds and on morphine. The lights were going out. They operated here by my collarbone and found cancer in my lymphatic system. Then they operated on my feet and found cancer in my lymphatic system there. So they closed me up and said, you know, invite your family in. Time to get your affairs in order. And I thought, golly, this is not the way why did I go to college and seminary and work so hard just to get run over by a truck? You know, that's not fair. So, but I didn't know. I'm not a doctor. I didn't know what was right. And that was a Friday. They gave me the bad news. And on Monday, they were going to start chemotherapy on me. And that is when the entire trajectory of my life changed. I learned something that absolutely changed my life completely and made me a warrior. You know about being a warrior.
Yeah.
And so even though I knew our government had taken a position against what I was doing, I wrote a book called Too Young to Die.
Hmm.
And I went on the lecture circuit with National Speakers Association, the Bill Gove group. And I was willing to do whatever it took, practically stand on corners at night and beat a drum and say, listen, if you find out you've got this horrible disease, we need to talk, because I
Yeah.
found a way that cancer is hiding, and we found a way to unmask it. And that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and I told my live audience on X before the show. I spent a few minutes with them in the audio version of the show beforehand. That what they'll see today is because I'm using a series of clips from the intro clip there from Tucker's show with Doctor, I think it's pronounced Xiong, Doctor Xiong, and I think you'll see that he's from today, the technology of today, and the discoveries of today. But listening to your story over the past 51 years, I think you'll see a merging of the facts. That's what I saw when I did the research on it, which made me even more excited to do this show. When you are when you talk to younger people today about your story, because you're actually the first person that I've ever spoken to personally that had cancer, devastating cancer in their early 20s, and survived it. When you talk to young people today about this story, what are you hearing from them?
Well, generally speaking, I don't know whether you call it turbo cancer or,
Yeah.
what people call it today, but when I was offered the opportunity for the place I was working back then to get the COVID vaccine,
Hmm.
I called Dr. Contreras and I said, I'm a 40-year survivor at this point. Now it's 51, but I'm a 40-year survivor, and I don't want to gamble, this monumental survivorship that I've got. And I said, what is your advice? And he said, under no circumstances, if you have to sell pencils on the corner, don't get that vaccine. And then he backed it up with some facts. He said,
Hmm.
many of the people I had in remission, 10, 20, even 30 years, are now relapsing because they entered into what they thought was good medical advice. And I don't know, I'm not a doctor. At some time, maybe there was good advice, but it sure seems to have backfired. And so I didn't get that. When I talk to young people, they almost see themselves as bulletproof, that I was the
Hmm. Yeah.
anomaly. But I'm, as the doctor pointed out on your intro video, his big shock is that young people are getting cancer.
Hmm.
And I looked at his research. I looked at Dr. Contreras's research and Dr. Richardson. They were compatriots.
Yeah.
And and then I looked at a oncologist in Chicago, and I saw the same thing being addressed three different ways. And the addressing I'm talking about is that cancer cells want to survive. They are a
Uh,
part of us. And a Dr. John um, Beard in this book, which I will give your viewers a free copy of. That's 300 pages, okay? It'll
hmm.
be a PDF version. Um, but he says in this book, chapter 5, that he saw babies develop these same rapidly multiplying cells. And he looked through the microscope, and Dr. Beard said, this looks like cancer to me. Why aren't they born with it then?
Hmm.
Then, because he was an embryologist, he said in the third month of gestation, their pancreas kicks in, the baby,
Uh-huh.
and floods their body with chymotrypsin, pancreatic enzymes, that stops that process. And he
Hmm.
wondered, if I get a bunch of this pancreatic enzyme stuff, Could I give it to stage 4 people now and see how they react? And he did, and they did, and he was off to the races. But government came down on him because that interferes with a huge business and so much income. Hospitals don't stay open because they can do ingrown toenails. They stay open because they're billing insurance companies hundreds of thousands, maybe even $1 million based on the chemo and radiation. So I found out that when I got to Tijuana, I'm jumping ahead for you. When
That's
I got to Tijuana, they gave me large doses of this chymotrypsin, large. And then they backed it up with something that you've heard about. And this is what our government has zeroed in on, Laetrile, B17. And the reason, even though it was never meant to be the main solution, they zeroed in on it because it has trace amounts of cyanide. So Dr. Krebs, who developed that, got together with Dr. Beard, who did the enzyme, and they said, Dr. Beard said, I have unmasked cancer cells. They develop a coating of protein. That's why the baby gives pancreatic enzymes. It dissolves that coating and changes the polarity of the cell.
Let me stop you right there so we can take a commercial break, and we'll pick this up right after the break, because this is the key to not just what you learned years ago, but what's being learned in the technology and sciences of today. And we'll hear from the good doctor again about this issue. We'll be right back with Rick Hill. Stay with us.
What if millions around the world could access Bible teaching and worldview training for free right now without hitting a paywall? That's exactly what happens every day at worldviewtube.com because of the Worldview Weekend Foundation. We don't lock our live stream behind PayPal. We don't restrict our content to members only. Instead, the Worldview Weekend Foundation helps cover the cost of delivering free educational and ministry programming to people across the nation and around the world. And it's not just programming. My Sunday night church service, where I taught verse by verse through Revelation for 18 months, and now I am teaching through the book of Daniel, is made possible through the support of our church, Worldview Weekend Foundation. If you believe this kind of truth-centered biblical teaching must continue, donate today. Go now to worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address and phone number there if you'd rather give by phone or mail. That's worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you.
What could possibly be causing this?
Well, I think if you look back of causes, ironically, when I was doing at UCLA, I was working on pancreas transplant where I want to immunosuppress the patients.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah, right? Because you prevent it. And then I was working on cancer where I don't want to immunosuppress. So I needed to understand the body's mechanism, and we have a crazy, wonderful, exquisite balance in our body. You have the yin and the yang of the killer cells, and these things called natural killer cells and T cells.
Whose job is to kill anything that threatens the body?
Whose job is to kill, quite right, anything that threatens the body, whether the body has infection, if you have TB, you have HIV, if you have hepatitis, you have COVID. These cells are there to recognize these infected cells and kill it. As you and I are sitting here today, our stem cells are growing in order to replenish parts of your body, your heart. If you didn't have that, you wouldn't have a heart. At the age of 14, you need those stem cells. But mathematically, there are some cells that are transformed, and your body recognizes that through these natural killer cells and kills it. I call that nature's first responder. And that's your mechanism. That's how we are all protected, and we are in this state of equilibrium or balance. On the other hand, the moment either the tumor find a way to hide from these cells, or your body's or the tumor causes these cells to be suppressed. And that's why I call this the suppressor cells. And there are certain cells in your body called Treg cells or myeloid-derived suppressor cells. These are all technical. That when they get upregulated, you've lost your protection.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're talking about how cancer disguises itself like a bandit, like criminals do, in order to fool the body's immune system to not attack it. My guest today is Rick Hill, who is a 50-plus year survivor of a devastating stage 3 metastasized cancer that he went to a place down in Mexico, the hospital started by a man named Dr. Ernesto Contreras that helped him overcome that cancer, and he's been cancer-free for all these years. Rick, the good doctor and Tucker there were talking about, in technical terms, how the cancer cells disguise themselves and going through the different types of immunoresponse cells like T cells and those kind of things. And you were mentioning before the break how part of your treatment was to unmask those cancer cells. What was it in your treatment that did that unmasking?
That's why, even after 51 years of being healthy, of being on no prescription drugs, no chemo, no radiation, and no relapse, all these years, I get up every day and I take enzymes, which I've already mentioned on your show.
Yep.
Colonel, these are pancreatic enzymes that babies produce so that they are born cancer-free. Dr. Beard discovered that in 1902. This is not something I dug up last week. And when they gave me enormous amounts of these enzymes, my cancer cells became exposed to those killer cells that the good doctor is talking about there. So my real cure came from within. But as long as all those cancer cells that I had could hide, I wasn't going to be protected. And then they had backup, and that backup can come in a lot of ways. For me, Dr. Krebs, that you've heard about, developed about 20 years later the concept that if you use B17 or amygdalin or Laetrile, called the Hunzas in northern Pakistan, had no concept of cancer ever in their tribal history. And that's because they ate a bunch of these. And those are all over the floor now. Those are apricot kernels. Get the apricot, break the pit. This thing is hiding inside. It looks like an almond. And I eat 8 to 10 of these a day just for protection, not to be treated. And what that does is, after the killer cells have come through and done their damage, if there's more to do, like I was head to toe with cancer cells. And that's why I took the Laetrile IV, which is the liquid form of the B17. That was a IV in the arm. And I took about 6 grams of that a day. 6 grams, not milligrams. No, I didn't even get a headache. I didn't lose my hair. Well, I am now, but I'm 75 years old. No throwing up, no runs, no. I felt better from day one after I got there, because not only had I exposed all these cancer cells, but now I got 2 things coming after them like a dog in heat. And that is my own natural immune system protecting me, and then this outside source of these apricots. And so as I began to look around, I saw other people like this doctor who uses what he calls low-dose chemo. A tenth of a dose would extract this protein coating for most people, and they would respond. The reason they don't get it is because of the enormous billing that occurs between their company, insurance company, and the hospital for a full dose of that chemo, which is collateral damage, right? Most
Hmm.
people that say that die of cancer are not really dying from the cancer cells. They're dying from what they've been given. So here's a totally different orientation that's finding the same thing. And then
Exactly.
finally, we can keep talking.
Yeah.
Dr. Contreras found out that if you use immunotherapy, dendritic cells, that unmasks these cancer cells. And then they give Laetrile at the same hospital I went to in
Hmm.
Tijuana, Oasis of Hope. And it's the same exact process being run by three different people, sometimes on different continents, but all agreeing the first thing we need to do is make these cancer cells vulnerable. And then our own immune system plus outside sources like dendritic cells, like Laetrile, come in
Hmm.
like the backup squad and clean house. Why would I, after 51 years, take these enzymes twice a day? Because I'm putting a cop on the beat.
Yeah.
These things are marching through my body looking, and the reason I take them on an empty stomach, according to Dr. Beard, is because I'm not trying to digest a steak I ate last night. I
Right.
want them to be free to go on the hunt and find those cancer cells, dissolve that protein, and then whistle for, the immune system.
Hmm.
Got you
Yeah.
covered. Come on, let's
Yeah.
get them.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
So Rick, let me ask you this. There's this. Tucker kind of mentioned it in that first clip. We did away with smoking almost, and thought we were going to eliminate cancer because tobacco causes cancer, but we didn't. It's increasing, and now it's increasing even more today. So we've failed in that. Do we know what the causes are? Because as you mentioned, the way I understand it, after listening to you and the doctor, is that our bodies naturally have these cells in them. And if our bodies are in balance from a healthy perspective, those cells never become cancer cells, full blown cancer cells, because our body is working properly. Uh, do we have an idea of what's thrown our body's systems off so these cancer cells awaken, so to speak? That's my word, awaken. Do we know that yet?
Well, I think it comes from different sources, and I think you would agree that some of it can come from dietary inflammation.
Hmm.
All the look what Bobby Kennedy is fighting today.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
saying, look at all this coloring. Look at these
Hmm.
preservatives. And he's got this list of things. And he will say, this is killing us. Our cells can't survive this. We're living in a toxic soup. All right.
Hmm.
And culturally, we're under a lot of pressure. Every night, just turn on the news and see who's going to try and bomb us next. Who's lined up. And without people like you,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to defend us, we're sitting ducks. So
Hmm.
all of these things, I think the elimination of the family, getting the fathers out of the
Hmm.
home, people feel insecure. Those are all factors as to why these cells can multiply. It isn't that our bodies don't want to keep us safe. It's that they're being, through inflammation, it's being suppressed. When I
Hmm.
got to Tijuana, what they did, first of all, made them visible and then said, you need to relax. You need to eat properly, pal.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I mean, 80% raw and uncooked, organic, non-GMO. Can I keep going? And the reason people don't stay on that diet is because it's a bit boring. When I got
Yeah.
back from Tijuana, they would say, hey, look, we're going for pizza and beer tonight. Don't give me this garbage about you can't eat this. There's nothing wrong with a slice of, pepperoni
Hmm.
pizza. And they don't understand. They don't get it that there's real enzymes in real food. And if you
Mhm.
get creative, that salad can be very entertaining. Dr. Contreras says, food is not for facial entertainment. It is
It's not
for
necessarily the pizza itself. It's the processed products used to make the pizza, right? The processing with all these chemicals we put in it and the craziness. And that's one of the reasons why I supported Trump and Kennedy is because they're going after that and returning our diet to they flipped the food pyramid right side up now is what I call it. It's upside down the way it used to be, but it's right side up because we were eating all these whole grains and stuff like that instead of meats, proteins, regular vegetables, even a little fresh fruit that was non-processed. And as you stick to that and it's not processed, you can have a pretty exciting diet, I think. Well, we got to take another break, Rick. When we come back, we'll see another clip from the doctor and Tucker. And it's about your immune system. We've been talking about it already. This stuff is really about your immune system. And we need to pay attention. We'll be right back with Rick Hill.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.
And so the question then is, how do we understand this balance? How do we increase the killers and how do we decrease the suppressors? So that's been 50 years of my challenge and how do we expose the tumor? So on the one hand, you need to expose the tumor because it hides from the killers. On the other hand, you activate the killers. On the other hand, you have to suppress the suppressors. So we're truly playing a good game of chess. And I think like a astrophysicist, where you're looking for God's particle, where all these molecules are floating around, talking to each other, all the cells are floating around, talking to each other, and this dynamic interaction. And how do you understand all of that? One of the best, most fun lectures I gave, I've given a lot of lectures on this and try to be non-technical because it's basic, what I call basic immunology. And the problem with cancer is it's been treated by oncologists and not immunologists. And immunologists don't see patients because they look at basic immunology. And then when you have infection, then you have virology. So this cross disciplines of virology, immunology, oncology, all these ologies don't talk to each other.
Yes. So you're saying, just big picture for non-specialists, of which I'm, of course, one, you're saying that cancer is to some extent a problem with your immune system.
It is everything about your immune system.
So you've got all kinds of defective cells that could become cancer or cancer in your body at all times.
At all times.
But your body is zapping them.
Correct.
Right. And that's the fundamental balance of the human body.
Correct.
And when that body gets out of balance, when the killer cells become suppressed or less effective, that's when you get cancer.
Correct.
When we're talking about cancer and how the body works, normally, Tucker and Dr. Xiong were just there talking about how the body works when it gets out of sorts and cancer starts, and the body's reaction to that and what needs to happen in order for it to fight it. effectively. And my guest today is Rick Hill, who survived cancer that he was diagnosed with from head to toe in his lymphatic system at age 24 by going to a hospital called the Oasis of Hope down in Mexico and not listening to the standard treatment doctors here in the United States. But the interesting thing, folks, is that you hear Dr. Xiang talking about technology today that he has worked on and is working on in oncology, virology, and immunology, and it's right along the same track, and these tracks are merging together to show two sets of circumstances and two sets of study that show the same outcome using very similar methodologies. And Rick, welcome back. I found that part of the conversation very, very interesting on how they describe the body and how it is in a normal state, how it is when in a cancerous state, and what needs to happen for it to fight it effectively. Because even though, and we'll hear a little bit more about that in the next segment, even though this doctor uses low dose chemotherapy to expose the cells, the cancer cells, so the immune system will see it, it's still it's the same set of facts on a slightly parallel road that you've been on for over 50 years, right?
That's right. In 1902, John Beard did not have a concept of low-dose chemo or immunotherapy. He was a baby doctor. And so he noticed that these 2-month-old gestating people developed these rapidly producing cells. He said, this looks like cancer to me. And then in the 2nd or 3rd month, the baby's own pancreas kicked in with chymotrypsin, and all of that was reversed. And he thought, what if I could get a lot more of this enzyme and give it to people that have gotten runaway cellular reproduction? And he got a whole group together, stage 4s, gave them this stuff, and they recovered. And that just, produced a lot of animosity among the people who thought they had it all figured out. And then years later, another doctor, following a different train, found that these little apricot seeds, very bitter, not the kind of thing you want to snack on, they produced a little bit of cyanide. And when exposed to a cancer cell, that cyanide was released and apoptosis, nice word. And that was a backup plan for the enzyme activity. And then years later, here comes low dose chemo, here comes immunotherapy, all of them together in a different method, unmasking these cells. And then your own immune, the killer cells, T cells, macrophages, microphages, they come along and go, look, over there they are, let's get them. Right now, my body has a cop on the beat. And that's because I got up this morning and took these pro enzymes from RNC store, and I'm being monitored all day and all night by people looking for those cells. And if we would just do that, if the best time to treat cancer is before you get it.
Yeah.
Before like you get it. Yeah. Get the cop on the beat and release those natural killers that we all have. And that's my message. I'm not looking around for stage 4 people to make $1 on them. I'm looking for the people that don't know they have cancer yet. And yet 1 out of 2 people probably will. That's not my statistic. That's our government. 1 out of 2.
Are we seeing more and more oncology types, virology types, and immunology types coming together in cancer clinics to develop these treatments and perfect them nowadays inside the United States? Are we seeing more of that?
We are. Yeah, we're having a big conference in San Diego from a company called Beljanski, and they are putting together oncologists and surgeons and very highly educated people. And I, being a patient, I thought, where have I heard this before? Wait a minute, this is what I did, but I
Mm-hmm.
took a different road to Rome. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do exactly what somebody else did, even though my method would still work, or Dr. Contreras's method. But it's encouraging that my doctor is a surgical oncologist,
Mm-hmm.
educated in Europe, not a guy mixing something in his bathtub, you know,
Right.
but
Yeah.
a guy who also uses low dose chemo,
Mm-hmm.
and then he puts things like ozone into the mix, and your regular doctor goes, ozone, that's dangerous, you know. No, it's actually quite good for you, used properly.
Mm-hmm.
And heat therapy and all kinds of different things. You hear about ivermectin and fenbin and
Mm-hmm.
minbin and soursop, and you know, I could keep boring you to death. But all of it is designed to enhance the ability that your own immune system has. And this was developed in 1902. Can I give this away for free right now?
Sure.
All right. This is
Sure.
World
Go ahead.
Without Cancer. See how big thick it is? You type on your thing, myworldwithoutcancer.com. No credit card, no charge, nobody calling you. All we're going to do is email you a copy of this book. And I want you to read chapter 5, 6, and 7. That's it. Because you will read those chapters and say, how is it that I didn't know about this 30 years ago or 40 years ago? Well, the American Cancer Society came after me. Every
Mm-hmm.
time I'd speak, they'd put an article in the paper that said, maybe he never had cancer in the first place. You see? Because they were part of the money machine. And I
Mm-hmm.
wrote the Mayo Clinic and said, you misdiagnosed me. You are going to get sued. And they wrote back in one day, overnight mail, and said, Dear Rick, no, you really had what we said you had. And we preserved your slides in paraffin if a medical doctor wants to look. You left here, and chemotherapy was mandatory when you left. And yet, I came back complete.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not even interested in knowing what I had done. Not one doctor called me up and said, "You look, I don't think I think you did a stupid thing, but tell me what you did." And
Not
I'll
one?
look at not one. Now, I went to my surgeon at the Mayo Clinic and walked in looking like I look today. And he
Mm-hmm.
went, and then before we started talking, he said, I want you to know that nothing you could have done in Tijuana could have had anything to do with this apparent recovery you've had. And I said, Doc, you look like a bright guy, but looks can be deceiving. What I want you to
Mm-hmm.
know is if you were a healer, you would say to me, I, I don't know how you did this. Maybe, I don't know, but you tell me the story. I'll give you 15 minutes. I'm going to take notes. Nope. Conversation over. Not even interested. That's why people don't know about this unmasking, about our own immune system's killer
Mm-hmm.
cells. It's not part of the medical agenda. What is part of big pharma is drugs
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
surgery and radiation, none of which I really pulled over and parked on. I got my killer cells on the hunt, and they've
Yeah.
been protecting me ever since. What a great story.
It is a great story, but it's a harrowing story too because we as the doctor said in the earlier segment he is surprisingly seeing 13-year-olds with full blown stage 4 pancreatic cancer now. So the mission of eradicating cancer that we started on by eliminating smoking, etc. We are very very far from discovering the right military capability, to put it in my language, and even to be able to strike that target effectively over and over 100% of the time, which is what your goal should be. And it seems the system continues to erect barriers to scientists that have discovered these things quite frequently. Do I have that wrong?
No, Colonel, you're exactly right. I mean, I wrote this book, what, 40 years ago, Too Young to Die?
Yeah.
100,000 copies.
Yeah.
You
And
can get them on.
where do people get that book?
They can go to rncstore.com and find my book, find the few things that I referred to here. Amazon has it. I'm going to do books on tape pretty soon with this. But it's all saying the same thing. And now we're seeing these other doctors popping up, being on TV that say, we can do this. But Bobby Kennedy is right in there with the rest of them saying, but let's get rid of the causes, the root causes, like our soil has been depleted, like we put Roundup on everything, herbicides, pesticides, algicides. I don't see how I go into a grocery store, I don't see how these people my age get to their car. They're leaning on the handle. They're 50 pounds overweight or more. You look in their cart and it's all sugar stuff and white flour. And they wonder, what's the matter? Process. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
That's got to stop.
It does.
We were fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
But we wrecked it.
And our bodies are designed to be optimized for certain types of nutrition, protein, meat protein, especially fresh fruits and vegetables that are not processed with all these chemicals. And those kind of things are, I think, the three key things about this. Well, we got to take our last break, Rick. When we come back, we'll talk about treatments, different capabilities, and continue this discussion. I'll be right back with Rick Hill.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. Is the government tracking you? Do they have access to all your data? Well, if you go to worldviewtalk.com, you'll find out about a cell phone company that, does not store your data. They don't do that. This is what they're known for. They don't store your data. You have privacy. You're not being tracked. That's why a lot of folks are turning to worldviewtalk.com. You'll find their prices are very competitive. All the details are there at worldviewtalk.com. Again, worldviewtalk.com. Oh, while you're there, not only do they have cell phones that aren't tracking you, you can find out about how to get a satellite phone. Should the whole system go down and you want to communicate with a family member or a loved one, you might want to have a satellite phone. Or how about their solar generators? They have great solar generators. Check them all out right now. Worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com.
Protocol is you administer low dose chemo to identify where the tumor is.
You smoke it out.
You smoke it out.
But at the same time, you need to have the natural killer cells and T cells ready. So you give them the bioshield that upregulates and stimulates your natural killer cells and T cells.
What about radiation? Does that play a role?
That'll kill your natural killer cells and T cells.
So no.
Unless, and comes out unless, today the radiation is what they call 70 gigabits. It's huge doses. Unless you give a tiny little dose just to the tumor, nowhere else, to smoke it out. So you use radiation in a very different way called SBRT, a low dose.
To identify rather than destroy.
To expose rather than expose. So the algorithm is expose, from hide to expose. The next algorithm is activate and proliferate your NK cells.
And that's with the subcutaneous injection.
Correct. The next algorithm is to educate your T cells with a vaccine that you anticipate that's going to be exposed. So you now have educated T cells ready. So you got educated T cells, you got NK cells. And the next thing is to activate your macrophages so they become killer macrophages. And the next step is to suppress the suppressors. You do that all simultaneously.
How much human suffering is involved in this? There's a lot in a conventional course of cancer therapy.
All as an outpatient. We've done hundreds of patients now.
So so someone taking this course is he going to lose his hair or throw up all
All
the
as
time?
an outpatient. No. What's even more exciting?
Because that matters for cancer patients. I mean, it's hard to be a cancer patient. It's horrible.
Yeah, but we're now seeing patients now in complete remission. More importantly, I want to treat patients before they need surgery. So that I can use the tumor itself in the body as the vaccine to educate the body and the T cells all about that tumor. What's even more exciting now, we can take blood from you, 1 pint, and extract the natural killer cell in the T cell and grow billions and store in cryopreservation, just like you do from cord blood. We now have the ability to grow these natural killer cells and give it to anybody.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're talking about how cancer is a master of disguise, like criminals. And the process is you have to unmask it, expose it, and then activate your body's natural systems to kill it. And it seems to be working. And my guest today is Rick Hill, who experienced this decades ago when he was 24 and diagnosed with cancer that had spread his body, lymph system from head to toe, and was told he wasn't going to make it. Call your family, and then he found the Oasis of Hope Hospital with Dr. Ernesto Contreras in Mexico, and this process using slightly different materials, but the same exact process that this modern day, present day doctor just described in a scientific way with Tucker Carlson. Rick, welcome back. We've got a question from our live audience. I want to go ahead and take that before we get too far into this last segment. Go ahead. Shell is our hostess over there. Go ahead, Shell.
We have Janina, sir.
Good afternoon, both of you. Mr. Hill, I have been taking the bitter seeds for almost a year because my family runs such a risk of cancer. I only take 3 a day. You were saying you take how many? And is that okay?
Well, I'm not a doctor, okay? We always introduce that. But I've seen people like John Richardson takes more than 20 a day and with no side effects. I probably eat 6 to 10 a day, but there is a difference between maintenance or being treated or prevention and being treated. Even though I had terminal cancer today, I'd classify me a prevention patient. In other words, all the things I do, B15, B17, the proenzymes, I do those so that I keep my cop on the beat. They're always looking for those cancer cells. And when they find them and expose them, then they whistle for the tough guys to come by, the ICE agents, to grab them. I think that's that's how we stay safe. And so I'm saying to you, as long as it's maintenance or prevention, you're on a good program. To treat active disease with that approach is a little like charging hell with a squirt gun. It's a good idea, but not enough firepower. You got to have enough horsepower to get the job done. And what this doctor is telling us in these videos, what Dr. Contreras tells us, what, all these different doctors coming together now saying expose and then attack. They even, whether it's low dose chemo or it's dendritic vaccine or whether it's enzymes, they all accomplish the same thing. And at the Oasis of Hope, they draw that blood, teach the killer cells what to look for, so that now you've got a ninja killer cells out there that can attack anybody and win. So that's what I'm excited about, is that these fringe doctors, even though they're not fringe educated, these fringe doctors that have said, I don't want to use that chemo, I don't want to use radiation, high dose chemo, they are saying we have found the key that unlocks the door, but it's integrative. It's using modern medicine plus what the people in northern Pakistan discovered hundreds and hundreds of years ago. They don't even know what cancer is. They live over 100 years. Good eyes, good teeth, they're ready. And now we're paying attention to that and not looking at someone like me who takes no prescription drugs, healthy. They're not looking at me and going, well, he's either lying or God healed him supernaturally. And I do agree God healed me, but it was a process. And that process is now defined. And we're hearing it from all these different doctors. And I worked with them. This is participatory medicine. You can't live the way you've been living if you're sick and think you'll get better. Not going to work. Does that help with your question? Maybe she's not online now. I don't know.
I don't know. I think she's probably dropped down to just being a listener. But yeah, I mean.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was told also by my own physician as preventative to avoid sugars as well. So I've been doing this proactively. And sorry, Shell.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Thank you.
Very smart. Very smart. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a difference between, you keep hearing me talk about the processed foods and Secretary Kennedy and his programs and everything. There's a big difference between processed refined sugar and raw natural sugar. Stay away from anything processed and refined if you have to use sugar, and go towards natural sugars that are raw, because that refinement process puts all sorts of chemicals in it. It changes the structure slightly, and it's not good for the human body. And that's one of the reasons why we have this obesity problem that we have in the United States, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor either, Rick. And I just want to say, for the YouTube censors out there, you destroyed the Rob Maness Show channel years ago because I had John Richardson on that talked about these apricot seeds. We are not doctors. We're not telling people to do anything. We're just telling people, go talk to your doctor. Here are things that have been seen factually to work. And you now have a separate voice on this particular show, two separate voices beyond Dr. John Richardson's son that I had on the first two times that caused the show to get destroyed. And the paths are the same. The techniques are the same. There are different materials in some cases, but they're designed to have the same exact effect on the target of the cancer cells in the human body. And for the YouTube censors, I just want you to know that. And I took these videos off of YouTube. So if you destroy my channel again, you're going to have to destroy Tucker Carlson. Anyway, Rick, tell folks exactly where to get. You got two books, right? You showed the one, How Not to Die Young, I think. What's the other book, and how do folks find it?
Yeah, Too Young to Die is on RNC store, Richardson Nutritional Center store.com.
Okay.
They can get that. There's also his dad published Laetrile Case Histories. I'll get the hang of this. And that's a Richardson Cancer Experience. That's available there. And then this, if you like a paper book, I do. But I'll give you this for free as a PDF if you log on to My World Without Cancer, myworldwithoutcancer.com. No credit card, nobody calling you. A gift. Read chapters 5, 6, and 7. And if you'd like my attention, we have a little teeny website called B17works.com. 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 Little questionnaire to fill out, half a page. And I return some of those calls and I listen to you. I tell you what I did. If that sounds like a good idea, I can show you where to get what I did legally. And then I'll supply you with information so you know that I'm not on the take. It worked for me, and I can tell you how it worked and why it worked, like the good Colonel is sharing. And you should be congratulated, Colonel. You are part of the solution, not the problem.
Well, that's what we aim to do, is be part of the solution. Rick, thank you so much for coming on and spending a whole hour with us to talk about this. It's not just fascinating. I think it's very important to bring people up to speed on what current science and medical technology is doing, because the Oasis of Hope is the right name for that hospital, and every doctor that practices this type of technology on cancer patients should be a miniature oasis of hope in a world of medicine that fights against the truth quite often and prevents people from getting the right treatment. Thank you very much, sir.
How can I tell my listeners when this will air? Will you send me an email?
Yeah, this aired live, and we'll get a post-production version of it done and post it up on all my social media, and I'll send you all emails with the links in them when that happens.
Appreciate you, Colonel. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Rick Hill, folks. Go check it out. Monday, More War Monday. We're going to talk to somebody about El Paso. L. Todd Wood of CDM Press will be back with us. He's Pentagon correspondent now. We will be talking about the El Paso airspace shutdown in Iran, amongst other things, on More War Monday. I'll see you then.
We have a big announcement, folks. Something we've been waiting on for several months, and it's now here. It's called Bella Melt. You are on it for just 1 week.